Hello students, in this video I'm going to explain some important things that you should know in terms of Vray, and these tools are going to help you work faster, and it will help you have good files to work with, and instead of wasting your time just waiting for the files to move around and being heavy. So the first thing that is really important to know is the Vray proxy. What is Vray proxy? You can see it here. This is create Vray proxy. Or you can go to create, then you go to geometry and then to Vray drop down menu, and you will find these tools. One of them is the Vray proxy. Basically, what Vray proxy does, it will import a Vray mesh file, or let's say a kind of block, into your file, but it will not import it into your file directly. It will just show you the proxy. It will show you the original file without it being inside your file. So you will be able to see it, you will be able to render it, but the size of your file will not be heavy, as it is just a preview of the original VRAMesh file. So how to do this? Now, as you can see here, I have 3,370 polygons almost. And this is because I have some heavy objects in my scene. So if I select these two plants and delete them, you will find that it went down around 40,000 polygons. If I delete this table, for example, with its accessory, it's gone around, let's say, 100,000. And also I do have a plant area outside. Let me just zoom out. Yes, which is this one. And if I delete this, you will notice that this is almost half of my file size. So I don't want my file to be as heavy as it is right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this file into a proxy. So to do this, first of all, this is a group. Inside this group, there are many objects. So I've selected all of them. The second thing is you have to make sure that the location of your block is in the correct location. You don't have any issues. You're not going to need to change anything later on. So you have it basically as you want it to be. Then I'm going to select my group, and then I will go to Vray Mesh Exporter, and I will get this window. From here, you can select where you want to save your VRAMesh file. And then I will select from here, export all selected objects into a single file. And basically, when you do this, the VRAMesh pivot point, or the Vray proxy that it will create, it will be in the same location with the same scale, and it will not ruin anything. Then I'm going to click on automatically create proxies. So it will export this file as a mesh, and then it will bring it back as a proxy, and you will not need to do this extra step. Also make sure to select create multi-sub object material. So it will select all the materials that are already there on this block. It will merge them into one multi-sub object material, and it will add the material automatically to the proxy that it will create. So basically this is all you have to do. You go to Vray Mesh export all selected objects in a single file, automatically create proxies, and then create multi-sub object material. You click on OK. It will take a bit of time depending on how much this block is, how heavy it is. And then when it's done, it will bring it back as a proxy with materials on it in the same location that you have it right now. So it took a bit of time, and this is the final result that I have. If I select this object now, this is a Vray proxy. And this is previewing a mesh file that is already saved in the folder we've selected. And it has its materials on, even though we cannot see them right now, but the materials are already there. And you have an option to preview this file in any one of these types. So you can preview it as a bounding box. You can preview it as a file from edges. You can preview it as faces. And then you can see it as points or as the whole mesh it was. Okay, so just to see the whole mesh, you can see that I have now even more polygons, but the point of a proxy is to view it as bounding box or let's say faces. And it took it down from 3 million something to 1,500,000 something. And if I click on render to render this view, you will see that it will show you the exact model that you had with the materials, with everything in the correct place. But the only difference is your file is now much faster to move through. Okay, so again, just make sure that whatever you are turning into a proxy is something that you would not need to change later on. So maybe I'll take this table with its accessories. You can do each one separately, but I'm gonna do it as it is. And then I will go to Vray Mesh Exporter, export all selected objects in a single file, automatically create proxies, and create multi-sub-object material. Click on OK, and it turned into a proxy. And as you can see, it was 1,500,000 something. Now it's much less. And if I render it, it will be rendered as it is. I won't have any issues. Now, of course, you can move it wherever you want. So I can select this object. I can go to hierarchy, affect pivot point, and change the pivot or bring it to the center of the object. You can move it around, you can rotate it, you can scale it, you can even copy it as an instance. It wouldn't matter. The size will not really change, it will change with few polygons only, and it will appear in your render as if it was already inside your file. Okay, so this is the Vray proxy. And just to compare, I'm going to save this file. So this is now 253. Let me just go back and check the file size. So I do have it on my desktop. It is, let me just check. So as you can see, the file size was 300 or 374,000, and it went down to 220,000. So this is a huge difference just for 2 blocks. I did not do this for all the blocks. Now, if your blocks are not really heavy, something simple like this, you don't need to turn it into a proxy. You can keep it as it is. But whenever you have some heavy blocks, for example, let's say this is not even heavy, but if I delete this, you will see that it's taking a lot of polygons. So I'm going to again go to Vray Mesh Export. You can name it and then click on OK. Just make sure that you are selecting those 3 options. And then I'm going to save this. Let's see if it's did any difference. Yes, I lost around 20,000 of the file size. So this is Vray proxy. Usually we use it for plants, for cars, for trees, for heavy objects like that. Now let's move on to Vray Clipper. Vray Clipper is something that is very useful. We use it to render our plans and our sections. And this is where you usually would need to cut your building at a certain height or a certain location. So how to do this? You are going to go again to create geometry, Vray, and then in here you're going to find Vray clipper. You can place it wherever you want. So it will be like a small square thing. You can go to modify and you can change the icon size. It does not matter. You can place it wherever you want, and it will basically cut everything on the same level of the clipper in the same direction of the arrow. So let me just move it a little bit up, or even if you have, like for example, rendering a plan, usually it is on a height of 1500, 1700. You can place it at the height that you want. And as you can see, the arrow is pointing up, so it will cut everything above this clipper. So how would this work? I'll go to the top view, F3, just to show you this is what I want to render. Okay, so I'll just zoom in. This is my plan. I'll zoom out a little bit to just make sure that everything is inside my render area, and then I'll click on Shift and Q, and I have my plan. Now, a few things that you need to consider when you are rendering a top view. The first thing is the color of the walls. Now, these are following this color of the object. So if you want them in white, you can change it to white. If you want them in black, you can change it to black. And now this is the result that I have. Another thing is the lighting inside is now much higher than what we had before. This is because when you are cutting, it will remove the upper part. Now, if you don't want the lighting to change, you just want to cut the view without affecting the lights, you have to make sure that you remove the affect lights option. So I will disable this option and then render again, and it will give you the plan again with no with the lights not affected at all with the Vray clip. Now, if you have some strong lights that you would like to adjust, you can do so, but otherwise everything will follow exactly what you have in your cameras and your perspective and so on. Okay, so this is the Vray clipper. Now you can add more than one, and you can enable them or disable them depending on what you want. So maybe let me just stop this. I'll just show you the final render and then I'll stop it for this area only. Okay, so as you can see, of course you can change the width of your render to get a better resolution than what we have in here. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to change the name of this Vray clipper to plan. Now you have to make sure when you are rendering, let me go to the camera and render. So basically I have my clipper on, so it will cut the view. I'm going to have only the lower half of the view shown, and then the rest is not showing because I have my clipper on. So if you are done with your Vray clipper and you don't want to delete it, just make sure that you disable it from here. Now you can work normally as if it's not there. Also, you can use it, you can copy it. So let me just go to my Vray clipper, and I already have all my settings, everything is done. I'm just going to copy it. So Shift and rotate 90 degrees. And for this one, I'll name it, for example, section 01. And I can place it for my section. So let's say I want to cut a section this way. Okay, this is my section line. I placed it. Now I can go to the front view or the left view, depending on the direction of my section. Again, I'm just going to zoom in and then render. I did the opposite direction, so I'll have to rotate to the right view, not the left view. And then I'm going to render again. Okay, so basically what I did is I've changed the direction from here, and instead of changing the section itself. So this is my section. Okay, so I'm going to go to this direction, and then I'm going to render. And one more thing I forgot to do is I forgot to enable it. So this is why I have these issues, not because of the direction. Now you will see that it will be working. And I have my section ready for me to save and use in Photoshop or AutoCAD or whatever software you are using. Okay, and if I have another section, again, I'm going to disable this one so I can render the other one, and then maybe I'll rotate it 90 degrees. And this is section 2, and I'll place it wherever I want. So maybe I want to cut a section here. Okay, just make sure the direction of the arrow is in the direction that you want to cut. And then I'll go to this view, and always make sure that you are in an orthographic view. So you are either in top, front, bottom. Orthographic, you are not in perspective. Otherwise, if you are in perspective, this is not a 2D render, it's a 3D render. And this is not going to reflect your section. This is a perspective section. So just make sure of this. Again, I forgot to enable it. So I'm going to enable it again. And then I'm going to render, and I have my other section, and so on. So this is how you can render your plans, your sections, without the need to waste time coloring using Photoshop or any other software. You can just render them from your 3D specs. Now we're going to move to something else, again in Vray. This is the Vray decal. And Vray decals are basically objects that you can use on top of the materials that you already have in order to merge them together basically in a way that is realistic without having the hassle of creating the material and creating an object and adding all of this, like all of these things on top of each other. So let's see what I'm talking about. First of all, I'm going to disable this section so I don't have any issues with that. And let's go to the exterior part that we already have here. Okay. So this is the exterior part. And I want to add a crack, for example, in this wall, or I want to add a number on this wall. So let's see what decals are. So you can find some ready ones here. We're not going to go through the details on how to create one. But if you click on Cosmos browser, it will open this window for you, and you can go to the home page. And we've talked about this earlier and when we were talking about materials, and we said that we have some 3D models here, we have some materials as well, and we have HDRIs and so on. Now, if you go to materials, you will find a category called decals, and if you click on it, you will find some ready numbers, letters, images, and so on. So let's say I'm going to go here and look for this wall crack. I'm going to download it. And then I'm going to import it to here. So I'll just drag it and drop it on the wall. As you can see, it's now on the wall. Let me just close this. You can select it. You can change the width and length from here, or you can just scale it. You can move it around, place it wherever you want, and then you can try and render it. And let's see how it will be rendered. So this is it. Let me just stop this render and just render this area to make sure that it looks realistic. Now I've scaled it a bit, so the scale is not realistic, but otherwise the material itself, it is merging with the material of the wall, and it's going to give you the final result, which is kind of realistic for this purpose. Okay, so this is the result. Okay, so this is the result. If there are any textures in the wall, it will take those textures and they will show in the decal object as well. So basically it will kind of take all the characteristics of the material that is behind it, but with this image on top of it. Let's try another one. So maybe let's try it here. I'm just going to render this to see how this rug looks like, and then we're going to add something on top of it. Okay, so as you can see, we have this rug, we have the texture. Let's go back again to Cosmos browser. Again, I'm not going to show you how to do this from scratch. You can download some ready ones from the internet, or you can use the ones that are already here. So I'll just go with, let's say, any letter that we have. So the download is done. Now I'll just drag it and drop it here. This is not used for rugs, but anyways, I'll just place it here and let's see. Again, you can change the width, you can change the length depending on what you want. We have some other parameters like the projection depth, projection offset, bend, and so on. We have exclude if you want to exclude something. You can control the percentage of the surface bump. There are many things you can discover on your own, but just for now, it's good to know that this option exists and you can use it. So as you can see, it's kind of merging with the color of the material behind it. It's like we've painted this on the carpet itself or on the rug itself. So it's giving this effect. I hope that you can see it. So this is the letter H. It's not just adding a white image, no, it is merging with the colors and the kind of the textures of the carpet behind it. And this depends on the type of decal that you bring. So if I bring something else, for example, let's say I bring some of these objects, they will not just take, for example, the texture or the opacity. No, they are going to be some solid objects. So let me delete this and place this here. And then I'm going to just render this area instead of waiting for the whole thing again. Okay, so it will give you kind of a realistic effect. If you increase the projection depth, projection offset, it can even give you a good shadow, let's say. Okay, so to explain it better, I'll show you how to create the decal on a different kind of heights. So let's say I'm going to go back to my Cosmos browser, and then again I'll go to materials, and then I'll go to decals. This is the correct collection, sorry, yeah, from here, decals. So again, I'm going to bring the same number. I'm going to place it wherever you want. You can rotate this placement, you can move it around, you can do whatever you want. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use this decal on the curtain. So I want to imprint this number on this curtain that I have in here. So I'll move it here. Let's keep it somewhere here. Now what I want to do is I want to increase the projection depth, so it will cover the area that I want to project this number. Okay, so now when I start rendering, you will see that it will appear as if it is projected on the curtain itself. So next we're going to talk about Vray decal. And what Vray decal is basically, it's when you are projecting an object or a material onto another material, and instead of creating a whole new mix of these two materials, you can just use the decal. Now, Vray decal, you can create your own, or you can download some ready ones from Cosmos browser, where you can go to, let me just take you back to the home page. So this is the home page, and then you can go to materials, and then you can find decals in here. And these are some ready ones that you can download and you can use. So basically, let's say I'm going to take one of these numbers. So let me just download this number. And then I want to have this number printed on this kind of chair. So in order to do this, usually what we do is we need to create a material with this number on it. Or we need to create or copy this object and then create another material, make sure it has the same characteristics, and then we add opacity and all of that. Now, with the use of Vray decal, basically you're going to drag it and drop it wherever you want. And then it will give you, I'm not sure where I dropped it, so let me just drop it somewhere else. Okay, yeah, it's this one. So this is the Vray decal. Let me just move it up. I'll just close this window for now. So this is basically the number. Okay, so I'll just move it up. As you can see, this is the number. I can rotate it and then I can place it wherever I want. So let's say I want it to be here on the top. So I want this number to be basically on this kind of fabric. So you can place it wherever you want. From the modify panel, you can increase or decrease the width. So let's say I'll make it 250 by 250, just to make like a smaller number. And then you can move this up and down. And as you can see, we have this kind of arrow here where you can increase the projection depth. So it will reflect, or it will project this number onto all the surfaces that are inside this kind of a projection depth. So now let's try and render it, and let's see what will happen. So as you can see, it's imprinting this number or projecting this number onto this material. It will take the same texture, the same displacement, bump, reflection, whatever it has, but it will give you this kind of material instead on top of this. Okay, so let's just wait for the render to see the final result. Okay, so This is the result. As you can see, it's imprinting it or it's projecting it on this. And maybe this is easy to do on your own, but let's say I want it to be something in this direction, for example. And now I can, let me just increase the projection depth so it covers the whole chair. And then I'll just go back to region and I'll render this area. Sorry. So as you can see, it's kind of projecting this number onto this material. So you can see the shadows, you can see everything without having to model all of this from scratch. And if you go to this browser here, you can find many other types that you can use. So we have these numbers and letters at the top, and then we have some these manholes, some kind of street markings. Also, we have some wall cracks that you can use. So let's try this one out. Okay, so this is the object. Let's try it out in here, for example. I'm not sure if the lighting is good or no, but anyways, we can try it out. I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees so you can see it on different materials. Again, don't forget to select this decal and increase the projection depth so it covers all these surfaces. Now I'll just move it here so maybe we can see something with different, let's see, with different depths. Yeah. Hopefully the lighting is fine, but anyways, let's just see the final effect and how it would work. So here we can see that the crack is reflecting on or projecting on all these different materials, different depths, and it's giving me a kind of a realistic effect. And instead of me having to do this using materials or to do it by modeling, this saves me all the trouble. If you go to the Vray or to the chaos guide, you can see some different techniques, you can see some different settings that you can use. So I'll just show you this. This is how this model looked with one material on, and this is how it's looking with different type of projections or decals added onto it. And this is an option that you can use, which is fade out angle. And so instead of it just projecting this way, it will fade out and it will give you this kind of effect. And then we have the option for decal displacement. So if you have displacement, instead of it just projecting this way, you can have this kind of displacement without again having to model anything. And these are again some different effects that you can use. This is when you limit the decal displacement only to decal without getting the displacement from the material itself and so on. So you can go to this help guide and you can read more about it if you're interested, and you can utilize this in your projects without like wasting time trying to do all of this on your own. Last thing that I want to show you, or the last two things I want to show you in Vray. The first thing is when you have an object with a UV map that is ready, that is perfect, but you decide to make this object a bit bigger, you want to change the size, and you don't want to lose the UV map setting. And sometimes these settings are not done by UVW map. You already have the block and it looks perfect, and you don't want to add another UVW map and change all of that. So basically, to do this, you need to go to Edit Poly to change any changes that you want to do. So for example, I will go and move the vertices here. Let me just click on Zoom in. So if I want to change or to move the vertices, as you can see, the UVW map is changing as well. But we have an option. If you go to Edit Geometry tab, we have an option for Preserve UVs. If you click on this, you can just move the vertex or move the plane without changing the UVW map. So it will stay as it is, it will not get ruined, and you can do any changes you want without ruining your maps by just clicking on Preserve UVs. So this is something that is very helpful when you are working and you want to edit, especially when you're editing some kind of blocks with maps. Again, I'll add Edit Poly. You can do whatever you want. So maybe I'll just move this, and instead of having this kind of effect, you can just click on Preserve UVs, and now when you move it, you're not going to lose your map. The last thing is a very simple thing, which is Vray plane. Basically, let's say I want to render an exterior view and I don't want to create the flooring here. Instead of creating a plane, if I go to standard primitives and then I select a plane, I'll have to create a very large plane, and then I need to move it down to the height that I want, and I'll add the material to it, and then I'll try to check, for example, in the perspective. Let's say I'm rendering a camera this way, and sometimes you can see the edges of the plane showing in here. Sometimes this plane is not enough. If you go to another view, again, sometimes it will look weird. So basically, to avoid all of this, you can go to Vray, and then you can use Vray plane, and you can click to place the plane anywhere you want. And this is just an indication that this is a Vray plane. Let me go to modify, and I can increase the icon size. So basically this plane is like any other plane. It is without any start or end. So this is an infinite plane. You place it wherever you want. You can adjust the height. Okay, so let's say I'll keep it here. And then you can add any material you want to it as well. So let's say I'll select this material and I apply it to it. Now, when you render, this is a plane with no start and no end. So it will extend all over. Let me just add the material to it again. Maybe the material, no, okay, it's applied now. So as you can see, however I zoom out, it still extends and you will not have any issue. It's covering the whole area. So this is useful when we are rendering exteriors or even maybe interior plans, and we don't want to extend our planes or our surfaces. We can just use Vray plane, and it will give us the whole ground, and it will cover whatever we don't want, whatever is under this kind of level. It will get covered without us having to do any modifications or anything to it. So I hope that this is useful and you use all of these tools when you are working, when you're using Vray renderer. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching.